So today we're going to take a quick look at how to do an educational plan for computer science. And this is mostly for students that are interested primarily in transferring to the UC system. And it's important to know that the requirements do vary a lot, college to college, campus to campus. So it's a really good idea to, of course, come in and see us in counseling. We want to make sure that you guys are really well prepared and that your application for transfer is as strong as it can possibly be. Now, in these slides, I'm going to be covering some of the things that are going to be most important for getting to some of these different campuses. But like I mentioned, come see us often so that we can help clarify and help you lay a really strong foundation. Now, it's a really tough major to transfer for in 2 years. A lot of students do it, but it is a very, very demanding major, much more so than business, econ, communications. This is going to be up there similar to engineering just because it requires so much math, so much physics. So it's really going to be a difficult major to do in 2 years. There's no disadvantage, though, to spreading it out for 2.5 or even 3 years and factoring in some work experience like CPT and OPT. Those are the work authorizations for international students, and we'll talk about those in a different video or certainly when you come visit me in my office. Now, unlike business, econ, communications, those type of majors, you're probably not going to have much time to take your general education courses. You don't have to have them done before you go. There's no benefit or strengthening to your application to have your IGETC done before you go. But in addition to the 3 physics that you're going to have as part of this plan, you're going to have to take at least 1 course from area 3 or 4 on the IGETC. That's a minimum transfer requirement. So if you have everything else at a 4.0 and you don't have that 1 class, you're in danger of not being admitted. The door simply will not open for you if you don't have that general education class. Now, really important with computer science is the issue of physics. If you took physics in high school, you're going to want to submit your high school transcript to the DVC admissions office. You'll follow the same pattern that you would for the math requirement that I have in another video. If you did not take physics in high school, you will probably need to take Physics 129 in your first semester. And this is if you're planning on universities like UCLA and many of the other universities that require physics, you would want to take Physics 129 in that first semester. If you took physics in high school and you passed with a C or better, get those transcripts in, get confirmation that you will not need it, and then you'll be able to start with Physics 130 in your second semester. You can't start with it in the beginning because you have to have Math 192 done and you have to have Math 193 going at the same time that you're taking the Physics 130. As part of your transfer planning, it's going to be really easy for you to pick up at least 3 certificates and probably our associate's degree in computer science as well. I'll take a quick look at those when we're done with the educational plan, and then I would say review the videos I've posted also on English, math, and general education because I won't be going those into any detail in this video. Now, this plan is, again, primarily looking at transfer to the UC system, Berkeley, LA, Davis, Irvine, the list of universities you're seeing here. Now, one of the goals is that by the end of your final fall, you try to have as many of the courses for your major done as possible. Again, business and econ, it's really easy to plan to have everything done by the final fall. Computer science, architecture, engineering, it can be more complicated. But that means that everybody else is probably going to be in the same position and situation as you. That being said, you still want to work to have as much of the math done, physics done, and computer science courses done by the end of your final fall. That's going to be a major factor in determining whether or not they're going to be accepting you as part of the transfer class. So let's take a look at a plan I've put together. So this is your first fall, if you're coming in the fall. If you're coming in the spring and you're trying to do it in 2.5, great, you just get to spread these out a little bit differently. But these 3 courses for sure, English, math, and computer science, you want those right from the beginning. Remember, if you didn't take physics in high school, you're going to add the Physics 129 here also. So keep that in mind. The IGETC, if you don't take it in the fall, we always have cyber session during December, January, and you have 2 different cyber sessions where you might be able to pick up one of those classes if you're not able to pick it up in the first fall. Now, you need English, math, and computer science in the first semester to be able to get to English, math, and computer science in the second semester. Each one of those from the fall is the prerequisite or the requirement to get into those classes in the spring. Now, this base plan that I'm covering here is basically for Berkeley, and then in a moment I'll show you how we add on LA, Irvine, and some of these other universities in terms of what additional requirements they have. But basically for everyone, of course, you're going to have to take those 2 English, you're going to have to take all the math, and most of the computer science. Now, summer is rough if you're trying to do it in 2 years. It's really rough. I recommend trying to take care of your Math 194. We have a 3-week session with some great professors. It's a really fast course, but if you're motivated, if you're trying to get out in 2 years, it's to your advantage to try to wrap that up early. And then once the Math 194 is done, you would immediately enroll or be eligible to take the 6-week session of Math 292. So you take 194 first, right when it's done, you take the Math 292, and that course in red, that's sort of one of the recommended courses from Berkeley. It helps, if possible, to take it, but this is where strategy comes into play because it's difficult to know what's going to be offered in the summer because you might want to take a class online. And again, as long as you're taking some of those major courses, any of the computer science that you're going to see on this list, you're working in the right direction. So then we get to your final fall. That's your first year. We get to your final fall. It's your final math and your final 2 important courses for UC Berkeley and a lot of the other universities. So everything's smashed into that first year and your second fall, but it does make your application very strong. Your final spring, this will all fill up here in a moment with some different courses, but if you didn't take a class in that first fall, or if you're trying to jump ahead and take care of some more general education, your final spring is a great place to do that. Now, this is primarily for Berkeley. You'll notice we don't have any physics on here yet, and that's where we're going to make some changes because a lot of the other universities are going to require physics. If you're only going to be applying to schools like Berkeley and Irvine, you don't need physics. But because transfer is so difficult for this major, a lot of students are going to take as many of the courses as possible so that they can apply broadly. So that's where we're going to add in some of these other classes. So yeah, it's going to get heavier. So spring, your first spring, we're going to add that Physics 130. And that's for UCLA, a lot of the other universities also. That's going to be the prerequisite for Physics 230. Because LA, a lot of the universities are going to require all 3 physics. Now, for your final spring, your final physics for UCLA, Math 195 is sort of a recommended course for UCLA. It's a benefit to your application to have it done. If you're going to be applying for UC Davis, it's one of the required courses to have done. But because you can apply for the tag, it's okay to have that 195 in your final semester for Davis. And I cover tag, the transfer admission guarantee, in a different video. The ComSci 200, either a requirement or a recommended course. I believe it's a requirement for UC Davis and UC Irvine also. So good to have that on your educational plan also. And remember, these ComSci, whether it's 210, 260, 200, 255, any of those are good options to take in that summer. You only get one summer if you're trying to do it in 2 years. So as you see, this is a really heavy plan. I don't recommend trying to do it in 2 years, but I understand that many students are highly motivated by time or money to move as quickly as possible from DVC to the university. This is the strategy to do it. This would make your application very strong. Again, if you want to spread it out to 2.5 or 3, it would allow you more time to focus on student clubs, internships, jobs, work experience. And if the long-term goal is to work and live in the United States, my recommendation is always try to get as much work experience under your belt as possible. If you run as quickly as you can to get the degree, it's going to be really difficult sometimes to find a job because they're going to be also looking at what kind of experience do you have. So if you're able to get to the degree in 5 years and you're able to get some internships at good tech companies, that's going to look a lot better than getting the degree in 4 years and not having any experience. And again, this is if the goal is to potentially make yourself eligible for something like an H-1B in the US. To wrap up, it's okay to have more than 70 units as part of this major. All of them are going to be taking care of major requirements in one way or the other. So don't worry if you have more than 70, if you have more than 80. Students change their majors, and as long as they're all from a community college, you're at no disadvantage here. Come by and see a counselor to discuss, exceptions, additional schools, or to clarify anything. Like I said, these are cumbersome, these are complicated. Every university makes their own requirements. They can change every year. If you add one school or take one school away, it can kind of change the whole layout of the educational plan. Like I said, if you're only applying to Berkeley and Irvine, you get rid of all the physics. But again, there's no guarantee that you're going to get accepted to either of those two schools. So again, it's about applying broadly. Check with a counselor about picking the right GE if you're interested in doing one of our associate's degrees. You probably would only need most likely one more general education class to wrap that up. And then by completing the courses on the previous slide for transfer, you're also going to be able to pick up those 3 different certificates of achievement: Advanced C++ Programming, Computer Architecture, and Program Design. It's free to apply for those in your final semester. They can look good on a resume for a little while, but you've taken the courses, so you might as well apply for it just to get those certificates under your belt. Come by and see us in counseling. I hope this is helpful for those of you interested in computer science. But certainly come by and see us because, again, we want to make sure that you are as prepared as possible, and we look forward to seeing you in our offices soon.